Hi guys, welcome back. EryxUK here with another vid. This one is my gaming update number 9. 9 months since I started doing these, and it's flown by. Basically, where to start? Non-RPG stuff has not been great, to be fair. After all the money that people have re-spent on HeroClix over the last 4 or 5 months, or how long it's been since the Avengers came out, the game seems to be dropping off. You know, we were supposed to have a tournament on Sunday just gone, yesterday for me right now, and 3 people turned up, and one of them hadn't built a team and decided not to bother if there's only us, and so we pretty much postponed this particular one until January. Which is really disappointing, because we've all spent a lot of money on it. I mean, admittedly, real life does occasionally get in the way, and we don't have an awful lot of players, but it's not really been played on other Sundays for about a month or so. So somewhat disappointing. The Warhammer Club has really pissed me off over the last month, unfortunately. Basically, it costs us... It's not an awful lot. It's actually a very reasonable amount. It costs us about £30 for the night, 4 hours, and we get half of the pub restaurant. We get enough room to put some tables together for the Magic players, and we have room for 3 Warhammer tables. And to be fair, it's been really quiet since 6th edition came out, which I find really odd. But we should be in the beginnings, well actually by now we should be somewhat in the middle, I think, of the end of year Warhammer Fantasy Tournament. The problem is that people just haven't turned up, and the excuses, well, I'll rephrase that, the excuses and suggestions why people aren't turning up are, in my opinion, just a little bit bunkum. I've been told, oh, it's December, it's almost Christmas, you've got to expect people not to turn up, and I'm like, I'm sorry? I can understand that if it was Christmas, or it was the middle of summer, you know, people have holidays and what have you, but in the middle and end of October, no, sorry, doesn't hold water. And the other ones I've heard is people saying, oh, well, with the league on, we didn't think we'd get tables. And it's like, it's a small league, there's only so many people playing, and it means that only 2, maybe 3 games are played a night, because they're only 1,000-point games, they're quite small. There's still plenty of room for people to be playing 40k games or other fantasy games. And the problem is, I mean, at the end of the day, if people want to have an evening off, or a couple of weeks, or what have you, that's great, you know, power to them. But the problem is that the club costs us money, and the kit is empty because over this last month, fewer people have been turning up. And if we have a deficit, it comes out of my pocket, and I'm not prepared to do that. I do all the organisation and everything else for the club. I'm not prepared to pay more than my fair share of the money each week. Now, last week, thankfully, the Magic players kind of bailed us out, because we didn't have anybody turn up. I see. Well, that's not true. We had somebody turn up, but then they had to leave because of an emergency. But basically, we had nobody turn up. We didn't even bother getting the tables or the terrain out. It was pretty much just the Magic players, and I did get really, really pissy, because that's what used up the last of the money from the club kitty. I've made my thoughts and points known on it to the guys, and fingers crossed that means that people will start turning up. Otherwise, as much as I hate to say it, if people aren't going to turn up and they're not going to use it, then they won't have a club, because I'm not prepared to pay the extra. Anyway, that aside, that's me grumbling and groaning, and you don't really need to hear that. But roleplay wise, the Dark Heresy game, I think we've had 1 session since I last did one of these vids, and we actually finished the scenario we were doing. It was a bit of a dungeon crawl in the end. It was just combat, which, while quite nice, after all the investigation and stuff that we do, it really just felt like a really bad dungeon crawl. But hey, it worked, can't grumble. Tomorrow night is the next session that we should be getting on with whatever we were supposed to do when we got here, sort of thing. My Cthulhu game is kind of back on. Basically, I might do a vid on this actually, but I've been trying to run a huge, great big 10-year in-game campaign for a while. I've had a group that's been playing it for about the last couple of years. It's been on hold for about a year because I think two of the players hadn't anticipated how long it would go on, and I don't think they were overly keen on part of the nature of it, which I said is going to be very Monster of the Week TV show sort of styly. There is an overarching plot, but because it is Cthulhu, unless there's something you want to, there's something that can be turned into a scenario. Pretty much anything you want to do in downtime will be downtime. It will be scenarios otherwise, because unlike D&D, you can't turn around and go, well, actually we'll go and explore the caves of Fnarg before we go to the Tower of Ultimate Doom to try and get some XP or to recover an artifact that we think might help us against the evil Lich Lord of Fatang. You can't do that with Cthulhu because it's meant to be set in the real world sort of thing, so you turn around and go, right, we'll go explore Old Man Jacob's library, and it will literally be an old house on the edge of Arkham, and it's empty because the mythos doesn't exist in every way. It's not it's not like D&D where there are monsters in every crook and cranny, and I don't think that particularly sat well with them after a while. And I think it kind of they dropped out of it, but we've started up again with some new players. One of the players from that campaign, one of the ones who was still into it, joined in the first couple of sessions, and we've been able to sort of like hand the keys over, as it were, so that we have done kind of like, I suppose you could call it like a beginning of the new season, and we've shifted the cast about a little bit. So while the other characters can be assumed to be doing stuff off screen, these guys are going to be the new focus. And if we can get any of the others to pop in here and there as cameos sort of thing, that would be great. And we've done one scenario over 3 sessions so far, and that has worked really well, and we're hoping to carry that on. The other Friday night game is the Rise of the Rune Lords with Pathfinder. And if you remember from last time, we were kind of dragging our heels a little bit because we've been stuck in the town and waiting for help to come back because of all these goblins, and all of the characters feeling a little bit antsy, especially mine, because we didn't want to be stuck here. We wanted to be doing something. I think the group is very proactive. Now thankfully we found a threat beneath the town, and we're off exploring that and fighting and treasure grabbing and stuff, and that's really cool. We had a really good session last week that everybody pretty much got into. The GM we found has got a few sort of like weird idiosyncrasies that didn't sit well with a couple of people. There's a lot of things that he bets people to roll for which are unnecessary to roll for, really. The story kind of slowed down because he was making us roll to try and knock down the door when there was really no need. We could have just kicked in the door, really, sort of thing. But other than that, really good game, really good game. The Sunday night games, my Pathfinder game has been going quite well. We had one issue. If you watch my campaign vids, I have another one coming up shortly. You'll notice that the last session I had a bit of a cock up. I wanted to use some clockworks from, I think it's Mystery 3, and I tried toning them down to balance for the party, and unfortunately I kind of cocked it up a little bit and killed a character without meaning to particularly. There was a few grumbles both from myself and from some of the players about it being too hard. I had tried to tone them down in game after realising that, and I still fluffed it up. So the character that was killed I allowed to be not dead and brought back because it was my mistake, hands up. But we had the following story, and this time they didn't have a problem. They only ran into a couple of these particular hard warrior ones, and because now they knew what they were dealing with, they just waltzed them. It happens. But they've completed that particular scenario, and it's all good. They've now leveled to 5th. I am having some issues with that particular campaign myself, because originally it was going to be a campaign based off of, well, pretty much I've got all the original basic D&D and some of the early first edition AD&D modules as PDFs, and I was basically rewriting them, redoing them, and tweaking the plot somewhat, and trying to link things together. And that's how I like to work, basically, with this. I like to have everything written down. I'm a fan of the, box text describing things. I was writing it all out. The problem is I no longer have access to a printer, and so over the last few months, it's kind of been either a case of I've run a module almost straight out of the box, just removing certain items of treasure and what have you, or I've had my notes, but they've been scribbly notes on a notepad, and I hate working off of that. And it's kind of sapped my enjoyment of it a little bit, because I had this grandiose plan for me how to do it all and keep it all in a nice folder and blah blah blah, and it hasn't quite worked. But I'm carrying on with it, and I've also had some ideas. I want to run another, well, when this campaign's done, I want to do another Adventure Path style one. I'm just having trouble writing that. Again, something else for me to do a video on, I guess. The other game is my friend's game, where we have the 3 characters each, and that's actually been alright. He hasn't been, I can't remember whether I mentioned this last time or not, but he hasn't been trying to push us on the plot where we really don't understand what the hell's going on, or everybody grumbled at that one. Instead, we've been doing a different plot line for the last couple of sessions, and it's been really, really good. Unfortunately, one of the players has had to drop out of the campaign. Well, to be fair, 2 technically. One of them, other real life has got in the way, and he's had to drop out of a few games that he's been involved in. And the other one is, well, let's say he has some personal issues away from the game which he needs to deal with. But it does mean that we've been down players. So we've brought in another guy from the Games Club, and he's fitting in really, really well. So really, the Pathfinder games are going really well. The roleplay stuff is going phenomenally. Everything else, the Warhammer and everything else, has got a bit pear-shaped over the last month. I'm hoping that it will pick up again as before we have our Christmas break. Pardon me. But that's pretty much the last month in review. I might do, thinking about, I might do that a vid on the Cthulhu campaign, and basically give an idea of what's going on with that. That'd be something interesting. Anyway, thank you for watching. Any comments or anything, please post below, what have you, and I will see you soon. Take care and good gaming.